Willing to stretch the law. Fox News contributor and former Oversight Committee Chair Jason Chaffetz. He's the author of the great new book, The Puppeteers, The People Who Control America. He joins us now, one of the top-selling books in the country. Congratulations on that, by the way.
Thank you.
Might that be why Jack Smith was picked by Merrick Garland? Because he's willing to stretch the law and find a case, even if there isn't one there.
He was. He's obviously a real political partisan, somebody who's willing to, at all costs, go after it. My experience, my interaction from afar was when he was involved in the Lois Lerner case. At the time, he was the head of the Public Integrity Office. You have an election crime office who went and looked at Lois Lerner. Remember, they were capturing all this information and targeting conservative groups.
Yes, the IRS. Yeah.
Yes, the IRS scandal. And there's a New York Times story. And so what does Jack Smith do? He reads the New York Times, makes a decision in his head. Hey, let's go prosecute these people. And so even the election crimes people, the Department of Justice, saying, no, there's nothing here. You should not do that. He moves forward anyway, and as Jim Jordan, the now chairman of the Judiciary Committee, is looking at this saying, why is this guy? He took over 1.1 million documents from the IRS into the Department of Justice on a case where they were targeting Republicans. Jim Jordan wants a special prosecutor to go look at what was happening at the IRS and Jack Smith. This is the kind of background that this guy has. He's a political hack. He does take on these cases. But in the case of Governor
his appeal options are severely limited when his own defense team has testified against him. The resignations and divisions this creates within Trump's remaining team are also important. Other lawyers are going to be asking themselves whether they want to continue representing Trump, whether they might face the same ethical dilemmas this lawyer faced, whether defending Trump is worth the professional and personal costs. Some will quit, others will stay, but be less effective because they're worried about being implicated in Trump's crimes. The team is fractured. Trust is gone. And that makes mounting an effective defense much harder. The erosion of Trump's narrative of political persecution is equally significant. Trump has always claimed he's being unfairly targeted, that prosecutors are out to get him for political reasons, that he did nothing wrong and is just being persecuted. But when his own lawyer says he committed treason, when someone who was paid to defend him instead testifies against him, that narrative. But before we go any further, real quick, let's be honest, you can't really trust mainstream media anymore. That's why we built Pump Politics, to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines, join our free newsletter. We'll send the news straight to your inbox every day. Just click the link in the description to join, and if you just want to support what we're doing, join us, be part of the community that actually cares about the truth. All right, let's get back to the video. It's people who worked for him, who defended him, who tried to help him, and who ultimately concluded that he was guilty and had to be held accountable. Okay, so let's break down what this courtroom betrayal means for Trump's case, for his legal strategy, and for his chances of avoiding conviction. Point 1. A defense attorney calling their client a traitor in open court and offering to testify for the prosecution is the ultimate vote of no confidence in Trump's innocence. When even the people paid to defend you believe you're guilty, when they're willing to destroy their own careers to help convict you, that tells everyone watching that the evidence against you must be overwhelming, that your guilt must be clear. This lawyer had access to all the evidence, knew Trump's side of the story, and still concluded that Trump was a traitor who needed to be convicted. That's the strongest possible signal that Trump is guilty. Point 2, the privileged information now in prosecutors' hands eliminates the advantage Trump had from attorney-client communications. Trump could previously communicate freely with his lawyers, could tell them everything, could admit things he'd never admit publicly, because it was all protected by privilege. Now that's gone. Now prosecutors know what Trump told his lawyer, know what Trump's afraid of, know what defenses Trump thinks are weak. That levels the playing field. Actually, it more than levels it. It tips the advantage to prosecutors because they know Trump's strategy, while Trump doesn't fully know what evidence from the privileged communications is now available to use against him. Point 3, fresh charges based on the new evidence create additional criminal exposure beyond Trump's original charges. The information the lawyer provided apparently includes evidence of crimes prosecutors didn't know about or evidence that strengthens cases they were building. That means Trump could face new indictments, new charges that carry additional prison time. Each new charge creates another opportunity for conviction, another way for prosecutors to prove Trump's criminal conduct. The cumulative effect is devastating Trump isn't just facing his original charges. He's facing an expanding set of charges as more evidence emerges from people like this lawyer who've decided to flip. Point 4. The impact on Trump's remaining legal team creates chaos and makes mounting an effective defense much harder. When one lawyer flips, others start worrying they might need to flip too. They start protecting themselves, start documenting things to show they weren't complicit in Trump's crimes. They become less effective as defenders because they're worried about their own liability. Some will quit. Others will be less aggressive in defending Trump because they don't want to cross ethical lines. The team fractures, trust evaporates, and the defense becomes weaker and less coordinated. Point 5, this public betrayal destroys Trump's ability to claim he's being unfairly persecuted. The whole narrative of political witch hunt falls apart when your own lawyer testifies against you, when someone who was paid to defend you instead says you're a traitor who should be convicted. That's not political persecution. That's people who know the facts, concluding you're guilty.
Cornerstone of President Trump's economic agenda faces a major test at the Supreme Court.
Trump saying this United States Supreme Court case is literally life or death for our country. With a victory, we have tremendous but fair financial and national security. Without it, we are virtually defenseless against other countries who have for years taken advantage of us.
There was a massive Supreme Court case yesterday where Trump's tariffs actually appeared before the United States Supreme Court for their legality. The Supreme Court will rule on that imminent question. Hundreds of billions of dollars are at stake because of the amount of revenues that have flowed into the federal government's coffers. There is a potential possibility they may actually have to repay all of the tariff revenue back to those companies if they are struck down, and it increasingly looks that way.
So Trump says if the Supreme Court rules against him, it's going to destroy the country. The other side saying if the Supreme Court rules against Trump, it's going to save the country. Let me explain what's going on. Okay, welcome to Liberation Day, April 2nd, 2025, where President of the United States, Donald Trump, is rolling out his reciprocal tariffs. He even has a handy chart to show us what it looks like.
Effective at midnight, we will...
And that narrative shift affects public opinion, affects potential jurors, affects judges who have to make decisions about Trump's cases. It makes everyone more willing to believe Trump is guilty because even his own lawyers believe it. So what's the bottom line here? Trump's own lawyer turned on him in open court, called him a traitor to his face, delivered testimony that destroyed Trump's defense, handed over privileged communications and internal strategy documents. The courtroom erupted in chaos. Trump's legal team went into panic mode. Prosecutors immediately began preparing fresh charges based on the new evidence. This betrayal gives prosecutors access to attorney-client communications they were never supposed to see, shows them Trump's entire defense strategy, reveals evidence Trump was trying to hide, provides testimony from someone who was inside Trump's legal team and knows everything. The lawyer apparently flipped because they saw evidence that convinced them Trump committed treason, that his crimes were so serious they couldn't defend him anymore, that helping prosecute Trump was more important than protecting their own legal career. Legal experts calling this one of the most dramatic turns in Trump's legal saga, because defense attorneys don't betray their clients, don't call them traitors in open court, don't hand over privileged information to prosecutors. When that happens, it signals that the evidence of guilt is overwhelming. The pattern of former Trump loyalists flipping creates cumulative damage. Each person who cooperates adds to the case. Provides more evidence, makes Trump's guilt clearer. This lawyer is just the latest. But because they were inside the defense team, they're particularly damaging the new evidence and testimony, making conviction more likely. Because prosecutors now know Trump's strategy, have access to his admissions to his lawyer, can prepare their case with complete knowledge of what Trump's team is planning. That's an enormous advantage. The impact on Trump's remaining legal team, creating chaos lawyers worried about their own liability, some quitting, others less effective because trust is gone. The defense fracturing at the moment when Trump needs it most, the destruction of Trump's persecution narrative. When your own lawyer says you're guilty, when someone paid to defend you testifies against you, you can't claim it's all political. You can't claim you're being unfairly targeted. The facts are clear and people who know them believe you're guilty. This is one of the most dramatic courtroom moments in American history, a defense attorney betraying their client, calling them a traitor, handing over privileged information to prosecutors, all in open court with everyone watching. And the consequences for Trump are devastating. New charges likely coming, conviction more probable, defense in chaos, narrative destroyed. This betrayal might be the thing that finally ensures Trump faces accountability, that makes conviction inevitable, that proves his guilt beyond any doubt.